right, CNN hasn't been getting any love from Donald Trump and his administration. So they won't be able, I guess for the foreseeable future, of getting anybody like Kellyanne Conway or Sean Spicer or Rance Previous or anybody else within the administration. CNN every week since that brouhaha went up about that quote-unquote 35, well actually two-page addendum to the security briefing that Trump got, and that 35-page report that got printed on BuzzFeed that CNN was referring to. Trump's had a hard-on for these guys. So yeah, I don't know when you're going to see somebody from the actual Trump administration on these shows. But they did have two guests on this morning. One of them was Rob Portman out of Ohio, and he seemed fairly reasonable as far as his call on the situation, as far as the Muslim ban, etc. And then they had Bill de Blasio, Democratic mayor out of New York, and obviously you know what side he came down on, and he basically told Trump to kiss his ass because he wasn't really concerned about New York City, losing any type of federal funds, and then he pointed out why. The majority of the federal funds come into New York for things like terrorist prevention, etc., 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 and a lot of money comes into the New York Police Department. So he said it would be asinine for them to stop providing federal funds to New York to combat the very things that they're talking about as far as this Muslim travel ban and extreme vetting, etc., are concerned. So if Trump did do that, and for whatever reason they had to like lay off cops or lay off people that were involved in terrorist protection, and then something went down, obviously de Blasio would be giving Donald Trump all kinds of hell. So that was basically, those comments about the sanctuary cities basically was just pretty much, you know, just throwing some crap against the wall and hoping that something significant would stick. So that being said, I decided to provide the roundtable on this particular video clip. Now, there were what I call 3 fairly reasonable people on there and 1 fucking bitch. And the bitch is Jan Brewer, former governor of Arizona. This bitch is flipping nuts, and she's a racist on top of it. Why do I say that? Because of all the action she took against Hispanic people in the state of Arizona, whether they were legal or not. She wanted to sign off on police officers just being able to stop someone who looked Hispanic to check, quote unquote, their papers. Anyway, here's the clip, and it's going to be actually they did a double segment on this one, and Ann Navarro, even though she's a Republican, she was hot. She wanted, I think she really wanted to burn Jan Brewer's ass. Anyway, check it out. I think it's interesting.
Last night you told CNN, quote, Islam hates us. Did you mean all 1.6 billion Muslims?
I mean a lot of them. I mean a lot of them.
That was Donald Trump last March giving his views on Islam and Muslims, while the executive order issued Friday banned citizens from 7 majority Muslim countries for 90 days. Trump insisted yesterday it's not a Muslim ban, but, quote, extreme vetting. Lots to discuss with our panel. We have with us today CNN political commentator Anna Navarro, Jan Brewer, the former Republican governor of Arizona, Farah Pandith, former Bush and Obama State Department official, and CNN political commentator Bakari Sellers. Farah, let me start with you. Your job for George W. Bush and then for Barack Obama was to help explain the Muslim world to the White House and help explain the United States to the Muslim world. What do you think of the events of the past weekend?
So, Jake, we can all agree that we must keep America safe. And we want President Trump to be successful in defeating ISIS and related organizations. But the executive order has a premise of 9/11. And by that rationale, it doesn't make any sense. The strategy is flawed and it doesn't have any intellectual rigor. We have to get to the actual meat of the issue, which is ideas matter. Their ideas have no borders, and you can't build an idea wall. You can't ban all the countries in the world in which the bad ideas are sprouting. So when you look at what is actually taking place, and we think about what this is going to do, it really takes away from the goal that he has set out for himself. It doesn't have the rationale that we need it to. And it is very important to understand that both in the Bush administration and in the Obama administration, we understood that the power to stop recruitment came from civil society. You can't set up an us versus them. We need to have Muslims around the world working with us to stop recruitment. And the way to do that is to engage them. If you don't have trust with the government, you can't engage them. You can't galvanize the movement that we need. And I'm afraid what has happened here is that it has stoked the idea of an us and them. It has given power to the extremists, and it will not get us where we need to go. I think the measure of success and seriousness of the Trump doctrine on terrorism really will be how serious they are with regard to Saudi Arabia, where these ideas have actually been sprouting for decades. So as we think through what they're doing and why they're doing it, the rationale doesn't make sense. It is flawed, and we have to really be thinking about the long-term impact. Our actions make a difference, our words make a difference, and the bottom line is we need to have partners that can work with us to stop recruitment.
Anna Navarro, are you surprised that so few Republicans who came out against the quote-unquote Muslim ban a year ago are saying anything about this is not a Muslim ban, but it is a ban on people from 7 majority Muslim countries? Are you surprised that so many Republican officials are being so quiet?
You know, I think people are exhausted. I think a lot of Republicans are exhausted. The flurry of activity this week has been really a dizzying pace. It's so hard to keep up. And so many of them have been speaking out consistently this week against the charge that there were 3 million illegal voters, against the tariffs against Mexico, against the idea of the wall, against not investigating Russia for hacking. So I think it's such a, steady rain of things that they have to confront Trump on, that it's been an emotionally exhausting week. I have friends telling me, I disagree with this. It is an un-American executive order, but I can't survive politically if I am confronting the man every day. But this is one where, as exhausted as they may be, Republicans need to appeal to their sense of consciousness, to their principles, to what is right and wrong, to American values, and they need to speak up. The Republican Party I grew up in is a Republican Party of family unity. What we saw yesterday were families being torn apart. What we saw yesterday was violations of the Constitution. We don't treat different people different ways. We don't impose a religious test. And though folks may want to tell us this is not a Muslim ban, I'll tell you who thinks it's a Muslim ban. Muslims think it's a Muslim ban. Those who want a Muslim ban, like little boy Flynn, and David Duke, the former KKK leader, are celebrating it as a Muslim ban. And those of us who don't want a Muslim ban see it as such.
Governor, what's your take?
That was a lot to take in.
There's a lot of.
I kind of noticed something, and maybe it's just me, and maybe it's my oversensitivity, but why do they pretty much on CNN and Fox, and to some extent MSNBC, the black participant pretty much always goes last? I just had to get that off my chest. I could be wrong, and I'm willing to accept that I am wrong, but that's just what it appears like to me. Because if you were going in order, it was the lady, the first lady that spoke, then it was Anna Navarro, then Bakari Sellers should have gone third, and Jan Brewer fourth. But he just jumped Jan Brewer over this guy. I'm not feeling that one, but that's just me.
Opinions, but what do you think?
I believe that President Trump is doing exactly what he campaigned on. He was elected president, and now he's delivering the goods. People in America want to be secure and safe. And with the ban, I think that it's perfectly fine to put it on a pause and do the complete vetting. And we have to address the issue of also of all the overstay visas. Last year alone, in 2015, there were 500,000 overstayed visas, and 1% were investigated. And this continues on and on and on. We know that Americans want to be safe, and our allegiance, first and foremost, ought to be to our citizens.
I don't know about you, but that is one old-looking woman. Anyway, here comes Bakari Sellers.
Citizens look like the entire world, though. And I do have to agree with Governor Brewer on one point, that Donald Trump is keeping his campaign promises.
Yep.
But the problem with that is that he is breaking the promises to our Constitution, to our founding fathers, and to our partners around the world. Anna said it clearly. I mean, I saw Senator Portman squirm and talk about semantics of whether or not it's a Muslim ban or not. But the fact is, there are a lot of people in this country who feel persecuted by that. Even more importantly, it's a religious test in there, because it says that if you are a religious minority in a Muslim majority country, that you somehow get precedence. So I think what we started down yesterday was more than a slippery slope. I mean, today, I feel like I'm a Muslim. Today, I feel like I'm a refugee, because as Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I think that is what you're seeing around the country. That is why people
Well,
are so
I
upset.
gotta tell you, I was actually a refugee, and I was actually a permanent legal resident. And I think this last week is also very important for this one reason. For many years now, Republicans attacked President Obama, legitimately so, against taking action through executive order, against not working with Congress, particularly on issues like immigration. And this week is important because it is precedent setting, because it is setting a tone. And I think Republicans in Congress need to speak up so that they are not run over by this Trump administration, and so that the Trump administration actually works with people who know what they are doing, as opposed to people in the White House who have zero idea. They are either heartless or incompetent, or both.
Okay, everybody hold it right there. We're going to come right back.
All right, let me hold it right there.
Christians. Do you see them as kind of a priority here?
Yes, they've been horribly treated. You know, if you were a Christian in Syria, it was impossible, at least very tough to get into the United States. If you were a Muslim, you could come in. But if you were a Christian, it was almost impossible. And the reason that was so unfair is that everybody was persecuted, in all fairness, but they were chopping off the heads of everybody, but more so the Christians.
That was a lie, by the way. More Muslims were murdered and tortured, etc., than the Christians. But, you know, what's a little alternative fact amongst, I'm not even going to say friends, because we damn sure ain't, amongst people?
President Trump talking to Christian Broadcasting Network's David Brody. Just a quick fact check, not broken down by Syria, but in terms of general refugees admitted to the United States, according to Pew, Muslim refugees, 38,901, Christian refugees, 37,521, so not impossible to get in. I'm back with our roundtable. Governor Brewer, you were taking issue with some of the things said by some of the other panelists.
Well, in regards to the Muslim ban, you know, if that was true, then he would have banned all the people coming in from all the other countries, Turkey, Indonesia. He has not done that. I believe that the administration probably has high intelligence reports that these countries that he has named, there's a danger there. And he promised the people of America, of the United States, that he was going to keep us safe.
So why not name a single country where one of the 9/11 hijackers came from? Why not name UAE or Saudi Arabia? Or why not name Russia, where the Boston bombers came from? Can we explain? Because they're
the bottom line is that they chose these countries based, I would assume,
Governor.
on intelligence.
Governor, that's assuming that then on January the 19th that there was one kind of intelligence, and on January 20th there was another kind of intelligence. That is assuming that President Obama didn't want to keep America safe, and that in fact he didn't have the kind of wisdom to be able to put certain countries on that list. America is made up of the most diverse group of Muslims anywhere in the world, and they represent every country on the planet. But the rationale of this executive order, you would have to put every country in the world on that list. What every security expert knows is that the greatest threat that we have right now is what's happening inside of the homeland. And we have ISIS cells in every single state. What we ought to be doing, and what the president can do to succeed in defeating ISIS, is to look inward, to raise up civil society that can push back and not allow radicalization from happening. This is not coming from outside of our country along an idea, wall over here. It's coming from an exploitative notion for young people on the issue of identity, and we have to be very vigilant in understanding what we've learned over 50
part of the
years.
reason that did not happen is because those security experts and those experts were not consulted. It should be very worrisome to everybody, including my party, that the Department of Homeland Security was not consulted. That General John Kelly, a man who has served his country, a 4-star general, a Marine, a patriot, did not learn about this order until hours before he was supposed to start implementing. His department was supposed to start implementing. That department expressed concern about it being implemented on legal permanent residents, and he got overridden by people in the White House who are not national security experts, though some of them may now be in the in the National Security Council principals meeting.
She's talking about Steve Bannon specifically.
Should be worrisome. We should establish the interagency working groups. There are reasons to have experts like Farah and like others at Department of State, at Department of Homeland Security, who are going to have to be implementing this. This should not be done by folks with no experience and nothing but campaign promises to fulfill in the White House.
I believe that the American people of the United States, they want our country to be
Everybody,
secure.
everybody does. Everybody does.
And he has surrounded himself, President Trump has surrounded himself with very, very intelligent cabinet members and intelligent White
He's
House
not letting them input, Jan.
You don't know that.
Did you read the report?
I have read
that about this executive order less than 24 hours before it was signed.
If I can just chime in quickly, because you started down the path of this Christian preference. And as a Christian, I think that this is deeply concerning because this is not what our country was built upon. I mean, this is, and I may get in trouble for saying this, but I believe this to be the antithesis to Christianity. I mean, the fact of the matter is we are a country that is built upon vast religions. We are a country that's built upon the beautiful people of all races, of all shades. And the fact that we are now, give us just some, not all. I mean, it's amazing that people are now just pro some lives. When just this week everybody was pro-life, but now we're just pro some lives.
We accept more refugees. We accept more people, visas coming in and traveling in our country than almost any other country. We are, and we understand that's what we're based on.
I don't think that's accurate.
I would actually look
It
at
is
Israel.
correct.
Look, I will tell you this. The Obama administration owns its inaction on what happened in Syria. The
And everybody
Republicans
is
will own this
hysterical.
if we don't speak up.
All right, thanks.
All right, so that's Jan Brewer, and she had to say something stupid. So, she said what she said. I felt like it was only right for me to give CNN some time because, they are basically going to be screwed by the Trump administration as far as having anybody from that administration appear on that network. And in my opinion, this was a fairly interesting roundtable.